me give you a little background, just a little. I've heard this, and you know where this is coming from. The old wives' tale. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. I've heard this used, not a lot lately, but I've heard it. And I've heard it, well, that was not right. And I also have this thought that society does not realize how many things are really rooted in the Bible. They use phrases, catchphrases, old wives' tales, superstitions. By the way, if you were here on a Sunday night, you heard a little bit about old wives' tales that are actually in the Bible. I've got another one that I've got the kind of the outline of it, but superstitions. They're actually founded in the Bible. So there's more things that we think are rooted in the Bible. Now, interestingly enough, this one, Sticks and Stones, is not specifically rooted in the Bible. But the concepts there are. And a little bit like Andy, I have to go back and look at the history. I have to see where this came from. The most common reference is that it comes from the 19th century. But I actually found a reference that says it comes from the Dark Ages. So it's rooted much older. But regardless of where it started from, what it's about is resilience and perseverance. And if you read it, it says, sticks and stones may break my bones. It doesn't say that sticks and stones will kill me. Because we could easily go to the Bible and find references to that. That's easy. Stonings were, for the apostles, was a common thing. And the words will never hurt me. Well, that's what we want to talk about here. It suggests the physical harm, and when words, mere expressions, are powerless to cause real damage. Well, we need to look at that. Because there is truth to that. As much as words are hard and painful and turns people right back out that door, by the way. And really what we're talking about, in Old English, they may have paraphrased it. Wood and stone may inflict wounds, yet the tongue's utterance hath no sting. Now we're getting to some Bible versage. So power. When we look at words, do we think about what power they hold? Now, I'm going to hit this next one. And I'm not talking about TV and televangelists. So just get that one out of your mind. But in a sense, they're actually a good illustration for this. How many people, well, not that I've watched more than that much 30 years ago when I was in my 20s or teens, because I was curious. And I hit click. And that's in the days of Pat Robertson's 700 Club and keep going down the list. I don't know if they still run those or not. I don't know. But those words, because people believed in them, they actually felt better. Now, granted, they didn't go and deal with real broken legs and joints and other ailments. They dealt with the superficial stuff that words could heal. But there's a point there. Jesus used words to heal. But he healed not just spiritually, emotionally, but he healed physically as well. But words also have a power to hurt. And I know that it's not intended, that sarcasm cuts both ways. And we may say something and somebody's left, well, what did they mean by that? So they're left in a confusion state. Or they take your pick, which way you want to use it. But words have a tremendous ability to hurt. And they have a power to uplift. my electronic Bible, those words that are in there, do they heal? They can. Can they uplift? They can. Can they hurt? Yes, they can. Because they will tell us what we're not doing, for what we've done, and now we have to figure out how to deal with consequences. And I was holding this one off because those words that hurt also destroy. And yeah, I should align these up differently. But the reality of day to day, you can be having a conversation and you're uplifted or you're feeling better, healed. But before the conversation's over, you may be hurt, maybe even destroyed. And not that maybe they were intended to do that, but they do. So in Proverbs 18 and 21, death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruits. The words we speak can create or destroy. So let's talk about this for just a moment. Those who love it will eat its fruits. Well, what are they talking about? Well, you got to kind of break the sentence down because it's a death and life. So those who are after life will love the power that the words from the tongue bring them. And that's back to my prior slide of all the things it can do. It can heal. It can uplift. It can make you feel better. It can make you be singing praises to God throughout the week, humming things. Joe has made the comment. Yeah, I'm going to pick on you. But he listens to, and I forget which radio station it is, but it's one of the religious stations. And every once in a while, as he said, it's been a while, but he said, a tune gets stuck in my head. And that's just it. It as well with my soul that we just sang actually got used in one of our devotionals this week at camp. And the sad reality of that song is it's the children of the man in the middle of the Atlantic, and he's writing the song as his ship passes the approximate place that the other ship went down, and his children all perished. But those were words that he's okay. Those are healing words. Those are comforting words. Those are uplifting words. And if you don't know the story behind that, you still it as well. Kind of plays into what this is, the power of words. Now, let's look at the death side for a second. If someone is self-centered and all they care about is themselves, do they care about the words that they use? When Trevor was on patrol, he probably had all kinds of people use all kinds of words. I won't go to the inappropriate side. But to why they're not guilty. Why it was something else. Deflection. But likewise, also people who are out to a variety. I'm not getting into psychology. I won't go there. But why am I spewing words at you that hurt? Well, probably because they're hurting inside, and that's just how they live, or that's how they've been brought up. And go with that wherever you want. There's a ton of scenarios there which that plays, but they're trying to inflict the pain which they are comfortable with. So, death, painful words, they love it. Those who are after life, they love it. So it works both ways. God spoke the world into existence, and God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. Kind of come down to that's the ultimate example. How powerful are words? God spoke, and here we are. You can debate the number of years. Doesn't really matter. We know it's at least 2,000 plus. Doesn't matter what the rest of the timeline is, because that's God's business, not mine. We have been here that many years. He's spoken, we're here. Think about that. How powerful those words are. Jesus, when he was dealing with the devil and all those temptations, he spoke to him. He conversed with him. Didn't change the devil. Didn't change Jesus' position, no matter what words that Satan used. But what God spoke was and is. The words that are in the Bible were spoken. There's no new ones, contrary to what people do. As I heard someone say recently, you've got to be careful. There are thousands upon thousands of books written about the words in the Bible. There's good illustrations, good thoughts, good examination of that, but you've got to be careful to not use that as your context to teach from without it being tied back to the authority of the Bible, because they're still words and they can be used. Let no corrupting talk come out of your mouths, but only such as good for building up, as fits the occasion, that it may give grace to those who hear. Ephesians. Typically, now our sailors aren't here this morning, because I usually get a half smile out of them. But typically, we reference a sailor's language, and we all know what that means. It's not good. The reality is, sometimes the words that we think are humorous, they're only humorous to us. The recipient doesn't always think they're humorous. That doesn't mean that we're not trying to make light of a situation or we're trying to be funny about something, but sometimes we need to pay attention to our words, because someone's body language very quickly will tell you, oh, that didn't go over well. Sometimes it's very obvious. You get a skull, you get a whatever look, you know instantly, oh, that didn't go well. That wasn't what I intended. And the apologies start. But sometimes we don't pay attention. Sometimes those words are put out there. I mean, so Barbara and I are a little bit different generation, because VCRs were new when we were younger. When we first got married, I had a favorite phrase. She probably got tired of hearing it. I'd say, can I push rewind on the VCR? Because I said something stupid. And I needed to back up. Now, the problem is, I've come to learn that there's an osmosis with women, that once they kind of hit married, all this knowledge of wifedom comes to them, and they all act the same. Which means there is no rewind button. There is no erase button. Sometimes they forget things. But they always forget, in my experience, she forgets the things that I really could care less she forgot, and she doesn't forget the things I really wish she'd forget. But that's okay. It keeps me in line most of the time. But sometimes we want to retract those, but we need to pay attention, because when we think it's humor, it's not humor. And sometimes, sadly enough, the person that's receiving those doesn't, and this is a phrase, they're thin, their skin's not thick enough to be able to take that in the appropriateness of which it was intended. Because there's many times that things weren't intended to be insulting or demeaning or hurtful, but they get taken that way. But that's a two-way street. That's not a one-way street. Our words should be uplifting, encouraging. We should always be seeking to help someone feel better, because we really don't know what's going on with them. So, a couple things. Had a devotion this week that I read, and two different a situation that happened at camp that I had to deal with. Wasn't a bad one, just a situation. But the words that were used, let me start that again. I'll press my rewind button for a second. I knew that would come in handy. Men and women, that's where I was going. Women will tend to share amongst themselves. I don't know, but I'm assuming that Ladies' Day has brought the women a little closer. They share a little bit more than they did before the first Ladies' Day. Because there's a little bit, not that there's not trust, but there's a stronger trust. There's a stronger bond. And that's good for themselves. The ladies' Bible class, the ladies' Bible class at camp we go to every year, it's an every year thing. Where, from the man's perspective, this is how it works. They have a topic, and they're scheduled for an hour. At 90 minutes, the door's not open. 15 more minutes. Ooh, where's the limit? They're still in class. They're still in their class. Oh, okay. We won't see them for another 30 minutes. Because the pattern is, what happens is that strength and that bond starts to take place, and they share. They share their. Not that she said this, but they share a lot of the hurts and the pains and the struggles. I don't know if they share the good positive, because I never hear that comment. But I'm getting a nod. Yes, they do. But they share a lot of those things that hurt. The struggles, the stripes they're going through. And that's exactly what the Bible and the words are all about, is that strength. Now, men, we don't share, we don't talk, we're superficial about it, and we take care of our own things, and we may talk to our spouses or best friends or whatever a little bit, but we don't share, just the way it works. It's the way it works. We don't. We may, a little bit, but it's the nature of man and woman and how they get strength. Now, by the way, this spawns a whole other topic about this family and all the other families that are meeting in buildings similar to this all around the country right now, and how that family is the strength. That's another whole topic, just saying. But regardless, where I was going with, those are uplifting words. I heard comments after that a few women, because you're sitting at the lunch table and I sat with my wife, and the women surround and you start hearing things. And you can tell from the words, it helped them to talk about it and to get somebody else's perspective. That's the power of words, is the uplifting nature of it. I thought I got rid of that. I reused it. Now I remember. I wrote this a few days ago, this past week. Jesus modeled kindness in his interactions, such as with the woman at the well. He approached her with compassion and grace, and transforming her life through his words. He's the great example of how to use words. I didn't specifically go research this, but aside from Satan, did he ever use harsh words with a man? Satan, I probably did. I'm not going to I didn't go look it up. But the patterns were given. He's compassionate. He's understanding. He's graceful. And I don't mean graceful and eloquent. I mean graceful in his words, graceful in his attitude. He's there to uplift. Jesus' two main objectives give us an opportunity for eternal salvation, and teach us to be loving and kind. He, in his examples, was loving and kind and tender. And you can keep adding words to describe it. But the bottom line was he was loving. He did not tear people down. He did not use sarcasm. He used parables, but he didn't use sarcasm. He used words to help. That's our pattern. So Proverbs 15:1 teaches us, a soft answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. So I'm going back to Trevor. Because when he was on patrol, those people he pulled over, you were wrong. I was only doing 53 miles an hour. And what's that I see in your back seat back there? Oh, that's just a whatever. They make excuses. Now that's an extreme, because he got to deal with people who were doing something. They knew they were wrong most of the time. I'm sure there was a couple of innocent, naive ones in there, couple. but they were doing something, and they were pushing back the words. Well, we get that without that extreme of a situation in our daily lives. If you're still in the workforce, you're going to get it somewhere. Even if you're not, you're going to run into it somewhere by somebody that's, we always just say nasty. Well, they've had a bad day, they've had a bad life, they've had a bad whatever. But those are harsh words and they stir up anger. But consider Jesus on the cross. In his agony, and I didn't pull the second verse in here, but I'll mention it. For those who crucified him, what did he do? He said, Father, forgive them, for they know what they do. To them, they were killing the man that was causing them all kinds of pain and anguish, and his words were destroying their world because they were losing control. People were not following them anymore. And that's what their words were about. And he says, forgive them. And the thief on the cross acknowledged who he was. And I didn't put that one on here. What did he do? Jesus said, you will be with me. He spoke it. Now, let's back up to Genesis. What happened? He spoke, and there was light. And then everything that got us to here was created. Those words are powerful. And we have that same ability to have those powerful words. And not to the same, I'm not trying to imply to the same degree as Jesus, but in a sense we do. By a soft answer, just because someone makes a statement to you does not mean you need to spew right back some comment. It's perfectly appropriate to be silent, unless it's life and death, and that's not what I'm talking about. You know what? Let me ponder that for a little bit. Let me get back to you that. Sometimes that little bit of time diffuses the intensity of the situation. And we don't have to respond. But we're conditioned, we got to respond right now. You've got a soul on the line. That's the reality of it. And whether it's a religious question or not, how you handle everyday questions, you're affecting how people perceive you and what you represent. And what you represent is Jesus. So, got a little bit off track there. But have you felt wronged at times? Think about that. When have you felt wronged? And what did they do that caused you to feel wronged? Try not to do that. And, how did you respond? So in Matthew 12:34, Jesus says, for out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. Our words reveal what's truly in our hearts. King David's Psalms reflect his heart's condition, sometimes broken, sometimes joyful, always honest. In Psalms 51, he cries out for a clean heart and a right spirit. There's my rewind button. It's a little bit more extreme, but on the VCR, I just want to back up and I want to tape over. Psalms 19 and 14 reminds us, let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight, O Lord. Daniel's prayers shaped his character and actions in Daniel 6. We can allow God's word to transform our speech and align it with his will. Mark's been taking us through foundations. Sometimes we need to reset and be reminded. This is what we're talking about. This is what we need to be. Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. We have these emblems before us every first day of the week because if not, and it was once a year, how many people would really make it back once a year? Or 6 months, or once a month. Take your pick of time. We will forget. And just like our Sunday morning class, those foundations, those basics, those ways of thinking, we get caught up in life. Life's hard. I know we talk about how blessed we are in this country, but in a sense, we're actually burdened in this country. We have too much. And I'm starting to kind of go down a different thought process of, yeah, we've got a lot of comfort. We got AC, we got heating, we got a building. I know a lot of men who preach overseas, and I see the Facebook pictures and things. Those people are happy. Their lives are hard. Our lives are hard. We're just on a different plane. Doesn't mean that it's easier or harder. Doesn't mean that anything, take your pick a topic, doesn't mean it's easier for them or harder for us or vice versa. It's still a hard life. So sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. The notion is misleading. While the physical injuries may heal, the words inflicted by the words can last a lifetime. Now that's got other problems with it too. If it's lasting a lifetime, we need to be doing some more studying about letting go of things. Because, one, the devil is always after us to drag us away from the path that we're supposed to be going down, which is a disciple of Christ. But a deeper meaning is to keep pushing on. Barbara used to run cross country. And I've heard bits and pieces of the stories. So cross country would mean, she can correct me if I get this wrong, but basically I know one place she ran was through the woods. It was a trail. Well, what happens if a little limb is down? You go across it. Well, what happens if a whole maple or an oak tree with a ton of limbs falls down? Well, guess what? You're going to have to figure out how to crawl through it because you still got the race to run. And you're hoping it doesn't take you too long to crawl through there. What's different in life? People's words are going to cut like a knife. It would be easier to take a knife and cut. Because the pain would happen, the bleeding would happen. You get the bleeding stopped, you get some stitches in, depending, hopefully that's all the deeper it is. And you can start to heal. And 6 months later, hopefully all the nerves and everything have returned and you've got normalcy back to it. But words, we need to only hold on to them for as long as we need to hold on to them. It's going to take us a little time, but we need to keep persevering. And that's actually what the Dark Ages version of the phrase really means. Yeah, those stones are going to break my bones. but we can heal from those words and we can move on. Daniel's prayers shaped his character and actions. Prayer is what we need to go to. I talked about the family earlier. That's another option. We can allow God's words to transform our speech and align it with His will. The Bible teaches us that our words carry great weight. They can bring life or death, build up or tear down. Let us commit to using our words to reflect God's love and grace. Go back and read how Jesus lived his life while he was here. That's what we need to be patterning after with our words. Choose to speak life, kindness, truth. Transforming the words will never hurt me to the words can heal, empower, and uplift and help people. And we're dealt with all kinds of... You got to keep in your mind, when you encounter those people who are spewing forth angry words, it's really Satan standing behind there saying, I got him. I think I got him. Let me put a few more things in there and see if I can rattle him a little bit. Job comes to mind. Not that I'm going to go down that path. But that was another thing I read this week. Job and his wife. His wife said, curse God and die. Be done. He didn't do it. He stayed faithful and aligned to God. Let us be vessels of God's love in our speech. So, in keeping that, with us being vessels, let us also keep in mind plan of salvation. Hearing, believing, repenting, confessing, being baptized. Stay faithful and grow. That's not always said. But that's where the words come to play. Staying faithful and strong. And by the way, that strong doesn't mean every single breathing moment. I have always, from Haley's age, kind of realized that life is about ups and downs. Sometimes the downs are way down. Sometimes the ups are way up. But that's life. And we come back to God knowing He's always there, knowing that eternity is there. We just got to persevere through the ups and the downs of life. So, if there's anyone that's not come forward to be saved, or if you've fallen short, as we stand to sing, let us know what we can do to help.